another edition of Fantasy About Hour, the channel dedicated to bringing you fantasy matchups on a regular basis. If there's a particular matchup that you want me to cover, please leave it in the comment section, and I promise to honor your request. Don't forget to subscribe and to hit that bell notification. The fight I'll be bringing to you in this video comes by way of request, and it is coming from question marks. Question marks, whoever you are, I thank you for your request, and I thank you for participating in this channel. The fight that question marks mentioned is Canelo Alvarez versus Sergio Martinez. I think that this is an amazing fight, especially when Martinez was at his best and when Canelo was coming up. So this is one fight that I feel that should have happened at one point. Those fights don't always happen, but nevertheless, both talented fighters. Canelo Alvarez is rising in the ranks, or has rose in the ranks, depending on how you look at it. And when Sergio Martinez was at his best, he was a slick fighter. He was an awkward fighter, very unorthodox style. Not to mention, he was a southpaw, which makes him even more unorthodox. I enjoyed watching Sergio Martinez fight. I enjoy watching both fighters fight. So as far as how this fight would go, I feel that Sergio Martinez has the edge as far as slickness, as far as movement, as far as awkwardness, reflexes. But on the other hand, Canelo Alvarez is a quick fighter himself. Great pressure fighter, great reflexes, great timing, great defense, and just Canelo Alvarez is just one of those fighters that just had overall ability. Love him or hate him, you can't take any of those things away from Canelo Alvarez. This will be a great clash, great matchup. As far as how this fight would go down, let's focus on Sergio Martinez for a brief second. Great fighter, as I mentioned, slickness, footwork, great timing, hand speed, awkward fighter. But one thing that I noticed about Sergio Martinez is that basically he gets knocked down every fight. He goes down every fight. And sometimes the movement and the footwork could work against him in the later rounds, as maybe he was fatigued, what have you. But I'm thinking back to his fight with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. To where now, at the end of the day, Sergio Martinez won the fight, but Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. kept coming forward, kept putting on the pressure, and eventually it got to Martinez in the later rounds. Now imagine if that was Canelo, with more focus, with more skills, and with more pressure. Now I could see Sergio Martinez giving Canelo a hard time in the early rounds. I could see Canelo having trouble setting up his shots in the earlier rounds, and cutting off the ring in the earlier rounds. But I just feel like Canelo, would have been more focused than any of Sergio Martinez's other opponents. And I feel like that, Canelo Alvarez would have been the more skilled, or the most skilled fighter that Sergio Martinez has faced in his career. I see this fight possibly going the distance. But if Canelo Alvarez could, find a way to cut off the ring to close that distance, I see him possibly scoring a late knockout. I'm not sure how this would go, depending on which Sergio Martinez showed up for the fight. I can't emphasize enough, how good this fight would be, how close this fight would be. But if I'm going with my gut according to their skill sets, advantages, disadvantages, I just see Canelo wearing Sergio Martinez down in the later rounds. I'm applying that constant pressure, watching Martinez through the fight and just collecting that data, cutting off the ring and just shutting him down and getting to him. And so I'm seeing this as a late stoppage for Canelo Alvarez. And I'm thinking around 10, 11, or maybe 12. So that's my final prediction on Canelo Alvarez by late stoppage. And so let me know what you think, even if you disagree with me. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you on the next video.